Hi, you're watching FRCD on CAN TV. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is the Region 1 Parent Training and Information Center of Illinois. You can reach us at 312-939-3513. Email us at info@frcd.org and visit our website at www.frcd.org. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at FRCDPTI and subscribe to our YouTube page at FRCD1231. We also encourage you to like us on Facebook. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is not a law firm or a legal service agency. Family Resource Center on Disabilities will not provide any type of services that may be construed as practicing law, including but not limited to giving legal advice, drafting legal documents, or representing families in any type of legal proceeding. Hi, my name is Paula Wills, and you're watching FRCD on CAN TV, where we discuss special education, parent advocacy, and resources for families of children with disabilities. And I am happy to welcome Zabita Pasha, my coworker and our bilingual parent trainer at Family Resource Center on Disabilities, where today we'll be discussing the functional behavioral assessment. And hopefully we have time for the I'm going to mess this up, behavioral intervention plan.
That's
I know
right.
that was like the easiest word.
Right.
Plan. All right, so Zabita, first of all, what is a functional behavioral assessment, commonly known as an FBA?
Let me thank you, first of all, for inviting me again for this wonderful show where parents can get the assistance, the information, empowerment. A functional behavior assessment is simply a data collection of the function of the behavior.
Okay, so dial it back for me. Function of the behavior. Let's break that down. What do you mean by function of the behavior?
What the team will analyze what that behavior is telling them. What is the function? Is it seeking attention? For example, if you have a kid who is wiggling and all over the places, cannot sit still, and he gets in trouble, either he will be, in the principal's office, or he will be somewhere not getting what he needs. But all simply that child is needing attention. Instead of raising his hand, he is turning around and making noises and ticking and kicking a chair. Instead of raising his hand, he may be tapping very hard on the teacher's, shoulder, looking like he's hitting the teacher. So these are the analysis of the behavior. So we want to make sure that we are analyzing the behavior and saying what is the function of that behavior, what the child is telling us. My child, when she was young, she was nonverbal.
Okay.
The behavior was her communication. Instead of saying I want or I need, it was a scream. So when I start learning these terminology, then the person who was helping us as a family at home, because she was small, she was saying, we need to analyze what she is telling us, / function of her screaming. I was looking at her like, she's a toddler. Toddlers, they scream. She says it's more.
Yeah, because she's screaming for a reason.
She's screaming, and she's screaming also frequently. Okay. Toddlers, typically, they scream when sleep or hungry or potty, but my child was frequent. So when we saw that frequency, it really alarmed us.
And I'm glad you brought that up. So this is not like just basic, behaviors. He pushed a kid at school, or he got up and went to the bathroom. This is something that's constantly happened to the point where there's practically a pattern.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good point. You brought up a key word in the process. The team will come together and they will look at that pattern. The frequency is also a key word. Like you said, he did not hit the kid once a month and we are going by our business. He is hitting the kid every day. When instead of saying, get out of my way, or excuse me, he is hitting the kid. So these are the things that we need to look. So an FBA, or a functional behavior assessment, it is a data collection to analyze the function of the behavior and help the parent, help the team, help the child to replace the undesired behavior with the desired behavior. For example, Instead of tapping hard on somebody's shoulder, help the child to raise their hand. Instead of kicking a chair and saying, kicking a chair, help the child say, excuse me.
Okay, so we're trying to learn a more appropriate behavior to,
Correct.
or
A
action
replacement.
to
Yes.
acquire what they want.
Yeah, a replacement
Right.
of the appropriate behavior by the end desire. I would never say inappropriate behavior again. Every action has a meaning when there are behavior and patterns and frequencies. Like again, my child, if somebody heard her screaming, they will say, oh, she's just a spoiled child, but she wasn't, because she was nonverbal and she was hungry or thirsty. Screaming is her saying, hey, give me some water or juice. But once we learn the techniques, we start nipping those things before they occur. And I will explain what before they occur, in the middle, and at the end. I will not say those words.
Okay,
I'd be good.
So, you kind of explained when we get into the behavior, when we feel that we need to request a functional behavior assessment.
Yes.
But could you, and this may be too early to talk about that, but when are some common times where, you may see a family or a team come together and say, we need to have a functional behavior assessment? Is it only at the parent's request?
No, it can be by also the team at the school, meaning, the teachers, the service providers, and the administrators. If they see, like you said earlier, a keyword, a pattern, and a frequency where the child is getting in trouble, he's pulled out of the classroom, pulled out of the classroom, frequently he's not receiving what he needs in terms of education, then we say, okay, let's talk about a functional behavior assessment. Okay. The process is similar than an educational evaluation, meaning the timeline are similar. The parent or the school will gather and say, okay, let's talk about it. They have 14 days to decide, to come together and talk about how would it be done.
One thing I want to jump in, you pointed out being pulled out of the classroom. So this is something we hear at Family Resource Center a lot from parents. I'm constantly getting phone calls telling me to come get my child, and this is happening every day. So, I know I'm kind of jumping around because you kind of explain when that is happening, and it's not, the school is not requesting a behavior plan at this point, but, in a functional behavioral assessment. They're not requesting this at this point, but as a parent, you notice this pattern of being called, should the parent make the suggestion?
Yes. Parent is an equal partner in the process. So they have the right to put it in writing. Parent, please put it in writing. When you see a pattern and you see all of these concerns, phone calls, email, text, pertaining to behavior, something that is hindering your child to function in the school setting, academically, functionally, and socially, even on a social level. If the behavior does not occur necessarily in the classroom setting and the kid is having difficulties in the lunchroom, and he is shouting and yelling because of a sensory overload, we don't have to take that kid from the lunchroom and not let him participate with non-disabled peer. We have to give him the opportunity to be with his non-disabled peer, right? So for that to be said, we have to provide the supports in that setting. Sensory overload, for example, and the kid, he's just like tense and shoving and pushing and ticking. And if the staff noticing those things, and even your child is able to tell you, hey, I have difficulties and I am not comfortable in the lunchroom, parent put it in writing that you are requesting a functional behavior assessment and gather data with the team to make sure that they understand, okay, what is happening in the lunchroom now. Most of the time you may get a little bit of resistance because the teacher will say, oh, I don't see that in my classroom. Well, it is happening in the school setting. Here's the deal. The IEP should meet the unique need of our kiddos with special need or disabilities, because functional behavior assessment and behavior intervention plan are part of the IEP conversation.
And I know we're going to get to that point.
Yes, I'm
about
ahead of
how.
myself.
Right? No. That's a good point. It's hard to like go in order because this is all happening
Main thing,
simultaneously.
Paula, your question is great. Main thing, parent are equal partner in the process. If it is not done by the school, make sure that you put in a request for a functional behavior assessment, and you have the timeline of the evaluation. The 14 days the school will get back with you, and then the 60 school days when they will finish and gather the data and then come back to the table and say, okay, let's look at this data. What does it tell us?
So upon, and I just want to make sure we're clear, so once that request for a functional behavior assessment is made, they have 14 school days
To get back with the parent.
to get back with the parent, whether or not they will perform the assessment?
Correct.
Okay.
And the same process as an educational
Okay.
evaluation, the parent has to give consent
Okay.
for the team to gather the data for the assessment, because it's an evaluation.
Okay.
They are evaluating what is that behavior is telling us. What does it mean? How can we help the child to overcome those behavior and replace it with the desired behavior?
So we talk about that. So what we've talked about the assessment. So I would like to know what is involved in the assessment and who is performing this assessment.
You are a great interviewer.
Thanks.
Great questions. These are really great questions because I will highlight what does it mean functional behavior assessment in terms, of gathering the data. What we focus in the functional behavior assessment or the evaluation is the antecedent, which is what had occurred before the behavior, what was the setting, what was the surrounding, what was the activity.
So could you say that again? Functional behavior and
Assessment.
Assessment. Okay.
Okay, we are looking at 3 components
Okay.
during that process. The ABC. A stands for antecedent.
Okay.
Is the paradigm where we will look at what was happening before the behavior. And I'm going to
Okay.
give example to make it clear to the audience.
Thank you.
Then we have to look at the place, the time.
Okay.
It's involving all of these. The people who are surrounding the child at that time. When, where, and how, and who. All of these WH questions are involved with the A, which is the antecedent. Then the B, which is the action itself, which is the behavior. What happened? Kicking, shoving, pushing, shouting, ticking, not paying attention. All of these are the action itself. That's the B, the behavior. The C is the consequence. What happened afterward? I'm going to give you the example of a young girl. She was looking through the window. She was in classroom. She was looking at the window. She saw a squirrel. She started laughing. The whole class started laughing. She had triggered laughter. Kind of contagious thing.
Yeah.
So the antecedent was she was looking outside of the window, so that's the setting. Who was with her? Her entire classmates and the teacher. What was the activity? She was supposed to look at the lesson at the board so she can follow the teacher, so she was not doing that. So it is attention.
Okay.
That's the target. Then the behavior is the laughter. That's the behavior. Then the consequence, the teacher had removed the little girl and she put her in front of her desk so she can pay attention. You see the ABC data it is. Now this is just a simple example, but there is more into it, and I highly recommend the audience and parent to contact us to have more extensive conversation based on, the situation.
Also, I also want to point out, you should also visit our website at www.frcd.org. We're actually providing a training, actually on the functional behavior, the behavior intervention plan, but we do have a series of trainings that discuss issues like we're talking about today. Just had to do my shameless plug.
That's okay. Where was I? I was at the ABC data.
Yes.
So that is the data collection. Now, this data collection will tell us what is the behavioral function.
Okay.
If Chloe was looking through the window and she saw the squirrel, then the function of her behavior is attention span deficit. So the function of the behavior is showing us a skill deficit.
Okay.
It can be on a functional level, which most of the time it is functional, skill deficits. I'm not paying attention. I am overwhelmed. I'm not following through. I'm not organized. All of these things can cause the behavior, which is the action itself. You remember the A and B, so that's the B part of the data collection. The antecedent can be also part of triggering the behavior. In terms of children with autism, mine particularly, she have a sensory overload easy by noise, crowds, and also by tight area. Any tight area, and she cannot maneuver where she has enough space to be pacing, she will have some problem in terms of behavior. She either say, okay, I got to get out loud, and that's not appropriate in certain instances, or she gets annoyed with the noise and she will be putting her hands on her ears and she will say, stop, stop, which is annoying to the crowd. Now we have to really make sure that the behavior we're talking about, it is not all the time physicalities.
Oh.
It is not physicality, hitting, shoving. Like my child, when she says stop too loud, it is annoying her peers.
Okay.
It is annoying. So, in other words, the action itself, it is hindering others in the surrounding not to be comfortable, not to be able to function. That's what it is. It's not all the time. I get calls like you and say, well, my child is not spitting, is not hitting. Why do we have to have a functional behavior assessment? But it is something that is hindering your child to perform like his non-disabled peer. That's the bottom line.
Oh, you bring up excellent points. So another issue we have, I mean, pertaining to what you just said, is that we often get calls from parents saying, okay, my kid is constantly being put in a corner. You know, he has this problem every day, and I'm tired of my child always being the one put in the corner. So, if you could briefly tell us, talk a little bit about this concern, and I guess that would fall under consequences.
It is the consequence, but throughout this process, we have to highlight the positive reinforcement.
Yes. So how can a parent better advocate for positive reinforcement when maybe the culture of that school might be to you have to go stand in the corner or in front of the locker or go to the principal's office.
Well, the school accountability and duty is to follow the IEP in terms of services and providing the appropriate services to meet the need. If that child is removed from the classroom setting, meaning he is not receiving the instruction and the academic support that they're supposed to provide to the student, right?
Right.
So to bridge the gap is to provide those supports on a behavioral level, but positively, instead of the corner. Give him a spot where if there is a sensory problem, attention problem, move.
And you bring up a good point for, again, identifying the problem. Is it a sensory problem? Is it another classmate?
It's a lot of variables.
It could be lots of variables. So I'm just pointing out that you want to first narrow down what are the variables, and because maybe going to the principal's office, they may prefer it there because it might be quieter there.
That's right. But the bottom line, are they receiving what they need in the principal's office? We have to go back to the compliance of the IEP.
I know, open
services.
Up a can of worms.
Right. This is a bigger question, and which is good, because I'm gonna just slightly highlight that the parent need to make sure that they understand the services outlined in their children's IEP. If my child is pulled out of the classroom, are they having the same level of support for the lesson that they're supposed to learn on a daily basis? Let's say a third grader, they're supposed to read a passage. Going and be removed from the classroom to the principal's office. Is he taking his material with him? Who is helping him? Point. Who is helping that child in the principal's office? So we have to keep these things in mind.
Because he could be there for the rest of the afternoon, depending. So if it's from one, and students get out at 3, and he goes there with no books, he's just sitting there. Maybe just. My
question is, what is he doing in the?
Right.
What is he busy with something? What is it? If it is just
Beyond
coloring,
writing his name 100 times,
well,
like they did back in my day.
that's practicing writing if it applies
Right,
to
right.
his services, but we have to kind of, it's a puzzle and we have to put each
Right.
piece in place. If we're talking about behavior, then we need to identify what is causing that child to have those discomfort or uncomfortable moment where he is having, loud voices or ticking, whatever the case may be. Identify and pinpoint
Right.
what trigger those behavior. Like you said, is a peer, because sometimes the peers, they can be mischievous with each other,
That's true.
and they can throw something on the back of the student, and then here is a problem.
Yeah, so again, many variables, which goes back to individualized. So what may be a behavior solution for one student may not be a behavioral solution for every student.
No, it's not a cookie cutter model.
Much like the IEP, which brings me to my next question. So how do we work the functional behavior assessment, or actually the BIP, the behavioral intervention plan? And I know I'm skipping around because we have like 5 minutes. The behavior intervention plan, once we've figured out what are the variables that are causing the behavior, how do we work this into the IEP so that it's followed and is successful?
Great question again. Once the functional behavior assessment is done, then we will come to the table and talk about what are the problems. We identify the function of the behavior. It's attention. Okay, how can we fix that target behavior of attention? And the implementation in the IEP is through the behavior intervention plan.
Okay.
So we identify the problem, which is the target behavior. Then we will say the settings. Now, just like anything in the IEP, the behavior intervention plan consider the child or the student's strengths. If they are good listeners, use that to reroute or redirect that attention problem with verbal cues, verbal prompt. If they are visual and they have that attention behavior, put something in a piece of paper or pictures or assistive technology, whatever the case may be. Make sure that they have that support. You're showing great visuals pertaining to data collection. And as you may see in that table, if you can stop at that, there is the time, there is the frequency, there is the time of the behavior completion, because we have to measure even that behavior. How long does it take for that child to snap out of that behavior? What is the frequency? Some of the kiddos, they have bad mornings because they don't like to get up early in the morning. And they go in and they are sluggish, they are lethargic, and they don't want to do anything. So we have to kind of shift gears. They're learning because supposedly nothing's supposed to be set in stone for kiddos with an IEP. So the key word is individualized. If they are not morning children, we have to give them something to kind of like open their eyes, like an activity, or going around the PE, the gymnasium a couple of times to kind of wake up and then bring them back to the classroom to do their work.
Which is something that could be written into an IEP.
Of course.
And I actually probably should have shown those earlier, but again, data collection. Basically, when you and the team are doing the IEP, it's based off of the observation forms that I just displayed.
It is observation, it is interviews, it is also intensive intervention. Let's say you have a child that you were observing and you're giving them that intervention. All of that has to be in the functional behavior assessment as data collection. Now, just kind of a recap. Functional behavior assessment purpose is to gather the data and identify and pinpoint what is the function of the behavior and what does it tell us so we can address it. The next step is to do the functional behavior assessment itself and identify all of those pieces, which is the A, B, C, which is antecedent, behavior, and consequence. Mm-hmm. Once we go back to the table, then we will say, okay, we have all of this information, let's put and build support system to replace the undesired behavior by the desired behavior through behavior intervention plan. That should be in the IEP, identifying the target behavior, the strategies, and all of that.
Sabita, you are superwoman because we are down to our last 15 seconds, and she just wrapped up I would consider a training on functional behavior assessments in like 20 seconds. You're brilliant.
It's an elevator speech.
No, it's not. So this concludes our show today. We are Family Resource Center on Disabilities, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful week.
Have a wonderful week.